Hey everyone, welcome to the BetSperts Golf Wells Fargo Championship betting preview. I'm Ryan Noonan, excited to be joined by the director of all things content related here at BetSperts, Annie. We talked about it last week. It has been kind of a trend of obvious plays. You went ahead, told us about how you not only took the obvious play, but you went full degen and you parlayed it with an NBA series and got a nice big number on Rahm.
Yeah, do you ever make a bet just so you can post it in a group chat to have a laugh? Like that was mine. I said, because everybody talked about like, should we just bet Rahm? And I'm like, well, here, somebody like Drew had put me on the Mavs to win that series, which I bet for a fair amount, and then Noops had put me on the Mavs to win that night, which I'd already bet. So I'm like, well, I might as well just take more Mavs. So instead of Mav McNeely, we took Mavericks to win over the Jazz. They did, and then it was like, well, now I am actually like sweating a little bit of a Rahm ticket. It wasn't a huge win, but it's like, man, I got to cheer for the ugly chalk all weekend. All I did was really, most of my bets were matchups. I just made matchup bets.
Had a good week there too. You crushed matchups.
Hashtag blessed by Tony, where he was down by 2 strokes in his matchup with Patrick Reed going into Sunday. Little 12-shot swing, as they say on the Sunday Miracle, and got that one home. So wasn't a bad week for kind of a rough tournament. It wasn't a good watch. I don't know, Geoff, how much did you watch on the television or the computer screen of this tournament?
Catch myself watching a lot. I still can't really go anywhere.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, you're laid up. I don't blame you for watching.
That's hopefully ending soon, though. I might actually try pedaling tomorrow.
Ooh.
Which is like nervous because I'm thinking about how much that's going to hurt. But anyhow,
is it going to hurt in the moment, or is it going to hurt like post recovery hurt?
No, probably like in the moment, not like on a bench, not like on a bike, but like sitting pedal. Like I guess they have these, I don't know, just these pedals they could put in front of a chair. Nonetheless, woe is me.
No, I've seen those at like nursing homes and stuff.
Yeah, I guess keep the blood flowing. No, I think a lot of my accessories are nursing home relevant at the moment. My wife even rented a couple like hospital side tables. I can't really explain it, but like if you were in the hospital, and the tray that they would like bring, like bedside tray, I guess, it has like wheels and can move. Genius. Kind of like never want to return it. So I got a house full of accessories. Nonetheless, I don't know. Rahm was great, or was he? He won with his didn't look like his A game. He still won. Not taking anything away. Great win. Good to see him get off the mat. If any of those players in those final 4 groups shoot, a 64. They steal that tournament from Rahm, and we have to debate if he's a choker, what's wrong, all that stuff. So I'm happy we don't have to do that. I didn't hit a winner again, although I think I like Finau, Champ, Riley, 4 picks last week. So just kind of just seeing it like fine, but it'd be nice to get off the mat. And I'm going to go into this week, and I don't think I'm going to respect Rory McIlroy. So we'll see if I pay the price.
Yeah, I do think now that that was the first of 3 years for that spot, that we did kind of land properly on the archetype of golfer that we want, because those guys that we talked about on the show, like you mentioned, Champ, even Patrick Rogers, even Brandon Hagee, like those Mullinex, like these guys that just hit it a mile, were in the mix, or at least in the top of the board, the top 20 coming into the weekend. So, Finau kind of seemed to find something over the weekend too, which was nice. If Aaron Wise didn't, shit down his leg on Saturday, we probably had.
No, there's only Finau backers are allowed to lament. Like, he missed 8 putts inside 3 or 4 feet. He literally did what Spieth did at the Heritage, but Spieth actually got the win.
It's like finding yourself in extra innings after you made like outs at home plate in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th innings. Like, you're really thinking back, like, shit. Like, this could have been for Tony.
And I get that Sunday changes the vibe. He makes those putts. He's going off later Sunday. It doesn't make it the carefree, but in like just decompressing the event. Now I'm a guy that I haven't bet Finau this week yet. I actually don't know that I am. I don't think it's the best course fit for him, but I don't know, 50-1 to win the PGA championship. Could be pretty tempting. The guy just had his best ball striking week of his career, pretty much. But in like typical female fashion, we'll probably be laughing about Mexico in 2.5 months from now when he's won me nothing and I flushed it, like just keep flushing it. But I'm not going to do it this week, I promise.
I can't take him at this. His numbers depressed a little because of the success, although he was great. It was good golf. It's exciting to watch him playing well a few weeks before a major. I like Tony. I hope he plays well down in Tulsa. I did kind of I always take notes after the tournament, especially on a tournament like this where I don't have so many notes from years past. A lot of times I'm just adding to my notes. Like, all right, I look at my notes from years. And I said, yeah, this is still holding true, or this, I need to add a little supplement it. I have no notes on this because it's a new course. And I kind of wrote down there's two kind of guys I think that win this. And honestly, Jon Rahm doesn't fit either. Jon Rahm is just like a top 5 player. If a top 5 player shows up and plays well, he just wins because it might just be a shitty field every year. But outside of the guys that do well, like you mentioned, all the bombers that place tie, a bomber can do well because they can have a bunch of short second shots into some of these holes. But also the guys who just have maybe they're not bombers, they're okay. They're semi-accurate, okay drivers of the ball who have, a really, really good second shot on these greens where they just, you say putting contest. Well, it's not much of a putting contest for some of these really good approach guys because the course was easy. And, some of the guys, middle of the pack drivers who are just all around good game were finding themselves with a bunch of short putts, were, scooting up the scoreboard. Just like, I don't know if there's a name for guys like that. I just call them scorers. Like they score by, not having to stress themselves out on the putting floor. Like that was kind of the course that they left it. I'm surprised the final score didn't end up a little lower. I was joking when I said like -30, but man, I'm like, man, there's going to be some low scores here some days. And I worry that one guy's just going to go scorched earth, which is funny as you transition to this course. We're going to sit here and talk for like 30 minutes about how hard this course is. And then we have to rectify that Molinari win where it wasn't hard for him that day. And that's those outlier, those break my brain.
The thing about those, you have to acknowledge they're the outlier, but at the same time, I'm always prepared for them because I go into every event. Now, this event really only has Rory if we're talking like cream of the crop. And when the second touted odds board player is Corey Connors, that can kind of have an effect on what I'm about to say. But even when we go to these majors, it's going to be impossible. Look at the rough. Look at look at all these videos. I am always convinced one of the top 25 players in the world is going to show up with their A game. And when that happens, what Molinari does or did happen. And that was actually the start of the summer of Molinari. So yeah, it's an outlier long term, but I'm never like totally floored when somebody is just like doesn't miss a beat
That's
for
a
the
really,
whole week.
really good point though, Geoff, because maybe in my brain, I'm thinking about that round. And for me, that would be like Brian Stewart doing that because right now where Molinari is. And
you
got to think of, you got to remember where he was at. Like he was the balls for.
He was like the Scheffler.
Yes.
I mean, different age, different career arc, different point, but it was literally like what Scheffler did. He did just instead of I think it was 3 events instead of 4. I could be giving him a little too much love on the scorecard, but yeah. So he was just in the peak place of his entire career and came here and dominated. And I remember having a bet on him that week. I remember not even watching, like golfing on the Sunday, just so rare they're ever stress-free, even when they're stress-free. Who even won, between Rahm and who even won the week before? It's all a blur to me now.
At the Zurich, the team before.
Even that was supposed to be the most stress-free ever. You turn the TV on, it's like they're a moment away from maybe one shot. Nonetheless, great performance by Molinari, who plays well at the courses he's played well at in the past. Maybe there's a sneaky placing bet to be made on here, but yeah, strict outlier. And it only creates, there's a lot of guys I'm excited to bet because of that Kyle Stanley winning score and because of what I perceive the winning score to be this week.
Yeah, I have a difficult time, at least as far as like finishing position bets, who's going to get my money, because I do have a fairly long list of guys I'm interested in as of right now. I think my outright card is set. Took some early action. DraftKings was really drunk. There was some massive discrepancies in the marketplace yesterday. Most of those numbers were cooked now, but I feel pretty good about some of the CLV I'm going to have on these losing outright bets. But hey, at least we have it. Feels good until we start on Thursday, and we'll take it for now. So as Andy touched on, Wells Fargo, we're typically in Charlotte. They were preparing for the President's Cup in September. We are now shifting to Maryland. We're at TPC Potomac. Haven't seen it on tour for a while. Basically a massive, redo of this course a few years ago. Made a couple appearances in 17 and 18, Quicken Loans. So we do have these two tournaments that we're talking about here with the Kyle Stanley win at 7 under. The board kind of, compressed around that number. And then we have this massive outlier where most of the board was in that same range, other than this 21 under, just balls to the walls, gaining all over the place, Francesco stuff that we had. So it does seem like a place where it is going to be, a spot where you need to have fairway finders, and you bring in some of the guys that are in the bottom of the board that we typically don't talk about. When you look at them, Marty Laird's, the Bryce Garnett's, Tyler Duncan, Hayden Buckley. We got a bunch of these guys that Russell Knox that, Geoff loves to bet Knox. This is another Straka course. Straka's played pretty well in these. So we have all these guys kind of that are a little bit further down the board that I think are viable. So we'll start at the top, though. Obviously, Rory gets the bump. He is obligated at this point to come here. Has caught a couple W's here over the course of the years in this event, not at this course. We've been kind of lamenting about what was supposed to happening and feeling like, hey, we're going to come back here and it's going to be the obvious one. Is Rory the obvious play? He is not the chalk play currently. You referenced Corey Connors, Geoff, being very, very popular, but let's talk about Rory specifically. Saw him in really nice form, wrapping up Augusta on the weekend. Obviously a tremendous Sunday the last time we saw him. He's clearly using this. I don't think he's going next week to Craig Ranch. I think believe he's not on that. So we think this is his prep for Southern Hills. What do we think about Rory here?
I bet him at the Masters, so it does make me tempted to think I should ride that, but I've got to just totally pass. Par 70. It just doesn't. I feel like I'm not getting the full Rory by making the bet on this course. If he does get me, I'll feel like last week. I guess I got. Although just even without knowing much about the course, it felt like it was a much better Rahm fit than this one feels for Rory. So it's just a pass. If he's unless he's gonna try to be super aggressive off the tee, which I don't know that that's a winning strategy, but he's probably gonna find himself hitting the second shots with a lot of other guys this week. So for that reason alone, Rory's strengths in some ways get neutralized at this golf course. I have decided to ignore him at the top.
Yeah, I agree too. They're taking away a massive advantage with the driver, with the limited par fives, and the par fives are like monstrous too. So you're looking at like most of those are 3-shot par fives too. Andy, what do you think here? Basically, 750 on FanDuel.
Do you have another parlay?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't like him this week. It's been better. Obviously, that was a really nice Sunday at Augusta, but it was the same as like you mentioned Tony's round. Like there wasn't pressure on him. Go out there and tear Augusta and Noonan. You're not going to win. So, I mean, that was nice. It was nice to see him playing well because I had not read on him as just like Geoff. But at the same time, over the past 6, 8, 10 months, you've seen that two-way miss come into play a little bit when he's really peppering it. When he does get aggressive off the tee, we've seen some bad misses off the tee. And this ain't the joint for that. Like last week, yeah, put it wherever. As long as it's in bounds, it's not in the ocean, you probably have a decent shot at the green. Here, the nasty rough, there's some pinches in the fairways where you're going to need a lot of accuracy. And he's not, I mean, that you either deal with inaccuracy and have horrible shots out of the rough, or you take the driver out of your hands and then take away, one of your biggest strengths. So either way, I don't like that he's priced this low. I would never bet him here. I don't think he's like, why would you be laser focused on winning this if this is your warm-up event? You get here, you play okay, you take your 2 weeks, head down to Tulsa, get your shit in the figure it out for the big one. But at this price, lunacy for me, considering just some of the things we've seen off the tee, fairways found, fairways hit, fairways missed, all the stuff I ran for some of the accuracy numbers, and if any of that rears its head, we might not make the cut.
Interesting. Sexy bet.
You want to bet Rory? Yeah, Rory missed the cut. Let's see what that price is. It's going to be the biggest one on the board.
Yeah. Well, let's find it. Missed the cut. We have those numbers out here. This is a pretty chunky rest of the board here, Geoff. When you get to the next, you can get 4-1 on Rory to miss the cut.
You know what? It's a wager. It's a wager. It's on.
When we get into the Connors fits. These are guys that we think that are fit this type of build, right? Fairway finders, not a lot of weaknesses in their game. And I get the Corey Connors stuff. I get the perception of, and I have a hard time paying in the teens for Corey Connors at any event. There are some 20s out there. I got a 22 and I like that number. I think we have to kind of I don't know. I'm trying to move on from he was field average putter last year. He has improved on that this year. He's taken a step forward around the green as well. He gains everywhere through the bag. He has got a little bit above tour average distance, and he is accurate off the tee. He just doesn't have a ton of weaknesses. Now, he doesn't win a lot. But again, if we kind of divorce ourselves of historic Corey Connors and just kind of look at how he's played in 2022, he has been in the mix almost every event. He did not play very well at Valero. Had a nice weekend close there, but that was a T35. That's basically the only thing. I think he's 4 top 12s in his last 6 starts. He's very much in the mix, and this feels like a fit for him. Fitzpatrick is in that same mix too. We also have Finau in there. Have you fired anything, Geoff, in this tier in the 20s below 30?
Okay, so I have a couple bets here. One of them, you want to talk about Andy's DGen, like a buddy giving him a tip? I got no tip. Mayo just sold me so hard on Corey Connors yesterday, but I wasn't willing to even bet the 22. That in the purest DGen fashion, when we finished recording, I parlayed him with the St. Louis Cardinals' first 5 innings yesterday. So by 1 o'clock, by 2:30 yesterday, I had Corey Connors at 38-1 to win this tournament as just a bit of a fun exotic. I don't know what I would have done had that lost, so I do have that. It's not fully documented. I can't tell you to make it. I didn't tweet about it, but
we just need a different baseball pick today.
Just know it happened. It was the first baseball game off the board on Monday, so you can't even say I tried 4 times to make it. No, just made it. That being said, I have bet, guys. I've bet Matthew Fitzpatrick at 25-1.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever bet Fitzpatrick. Lie. Bet Fitzpatrick one time. It was at Pebble this year at 40. The short course, yada, yada. He had a great little week. I think he finished top 5. I'm not one of these Fitzpatrick stands. I stand for my own guys who can't win golf tournaments. So I feel fresh. I go to this Fitzpatrick roulette wheel without being scorned so many people feel like they have been. Now, if he does what he did at Heritage to a lot of people who hyped the shit out of him at 25-1, I will probably feel some scorn. But for this, people love to hype him up at courses that work for him. I have not seen that sort of level of excitement. And this field is so much worse than the fields people bet Fitzpatrick at. He's got not one on the PGA Tour, but he has 4 European wins at courses under 7,100 yards. The course is a perfect fit for his game, for his everything. Other than the fact that I worry when he needs it the most, it abandons him on Sunday. But it's an outright bet. Give me an exciting feeling waking up on Sunday, and I have to just sort of accept what happens with it. So I am going to step in front of Matthew Fitzpatrick. 25-1 is the number that I pulled. So I'm on the team this week.
He's not a guy I typically have bet in the past, but I've hammered him a few times this year and have been, obviously dragged a little bit at the top, but I also had finishing position bets, and he has 7 out of the last 9 starts, T18 or better. He is the only golfer in this field over the last 50 rounds that ranks top 20 in strokes gained ball striking, and also top 10 in both putting and around the green. So, again, very similar to Connors. I think he's
very similar to Molinari went steam. Like, he did what he did to a ceiling level. We've discussed it. Everyone will discuss it. But Molinari, for the same reasons I probably bet Molinari, who hadn't won in America in X amount of years and forever, going into that Quicken Loans. Now I'm convincing myself of anything to think I'm making the right bet here. But he doesn't dominate on distance. Everything Molinari does, Fitzpatrick does well. It just feels like it's a perfect Fitzpatrick course. And again, you would have thought the Heritage was a perfect Fitzpatrick course. He missed the cut. Now, as just someone trying to convince himself that I've made the right bet this week, I look at that miscut and say, it was the week after the Masters. He finished top 15, been on a nice run of form. I don't give a shit. I'm able to look at that course fit miscut in his most recent start and just say, I don't give a shit. That's the things he sometimes got to do when trying to make an outright golf bet. I have done it here. So I am Fitzpatrick and his braces and all I'm stepping in front of.
Well, it was a bad outlier putting performance at the Heritage too. And that's at least for me, very easy for me to toss that out when we have a guy who is a exceptional putter. It's ball striking was all still there. I care about that. That seems to be stickier than any putting performance. If this guy who is typically a top 10 putter in the world has kind of a wonky week on the greens, chalk it up to variance, tell yourself the master story, whatever, you move on. He's very much in the player pool this week too. Russell Henley is another guy that is going to pop in anything that's doing anything from an approach standpoint. Geoff is giving me signals he does not care for the Russell Henley play. Right. I get it. No, so Henley is a guy that I just crossed off after being burned multiple times late last season. But I got a 40 on Henley.
Nice.
Where the market was basically 20, 28. Really, DraftKings literally 20, which is insane for Russell Henley. So a 40 I like. Again, we know the story with Russell Henley. The weekend smoke will probably choke him if he's even close enough to taste it. But a 40 is a pretty good number considering I'm trying to fit fairways and ball striking and all that stuff.
Yeah, fair number. It's certainly not the number I thought was going to come out of your mouth. I just have this I don't bet Henley. I don't bet Keegan. I haven't gotten burned by it yet. I'd rather bet the players I think Henley, Keegan, their metrics can show can be more consistent. I'm not setting a DFS lineup. I'm trying to bet a winner.
Right.
So I'd rather swim around them, not betting all these guys, but a Hatton, an Answer, just other players who I would just trust more to actually cash me an outright ticket.
Yeah. Answer's an interesting one I want to chat about. Andy, did you fire and anything up here?
That's my highest or my lowest priced outright. I really didn't love the top of the board, especially when you end up with Henley at he's at 20 and Answer's higher some places. I get the Corey Connors love, but he shouldn't probably be priced under 20-1 anywhere. Finau,
you're really trying to get cocky. You're really trying to call your shot. To bet Corey Connors in the same way, Finau used to go to tournaments. We'd all be waiting for him to win again at 1822. But I'm just going to call my shot. I just feel it. I've been there. I'm at we could speak about all our degen habits.
The Willie Z. We'll do it with Zalatoris next time.
Yeah. So but it just feels especially the DraftKings 16-1 that I saw in Connors. You're really just trying to Babe Ruth point to the fence to be
what are we looking at? Our 2019 Valero Open champion at sitting at 16, 17-1. So I've explained. No thanks on Rory. No thanks on Corey. Tony, the price is depressed despite how well he's playing. I'm sure I'll play Tony Finau in matchups. I did last week. I'll do it again. Goofy meme where I'll fucking do it again. I love Tony Finau in a matchup because he doesn't have to win the tournament to win a matchup. Fitzpatrick, I respect Geoff's opinion, but the price is beat down a little too much. A lot of 20s. Abe Answer, there's a 35 floating out there. Guy I liked last week, guy I like even better this week. It's a shorter course. Well, it's a short course, but it's a 72 or a 70 also. So I shouldn't say 72. It is a 70. And, you talk about some of these places where you can club down, play a little bit, maybe more conservative off the tee. Go and find your par. Don't screw up and score on the 3 or 4 holes that are actually meant to be scored on here. And I think Answer's game's fine for this. Good approach guy, good fairway guy, because he doesn't hit at a country mile. And 35-1, just he's kind of my mid-range guy that I've fired on this week. So Answer was somebody I looked at last week. I think I used him in some one and done. Little disappointing finish there, but I mean he checks a million boxes for me all the time anyway. And it just, again, it is the fairway stuff. And then I looked a little at some proximity because this is going to be a case where, and I went down to not only proximity, but I said, like, who's hitting the green from like $175 out when they're firm as shit? Because that's the problem when you start looking at some of these guys who don't hit it super long or decide not to, because it's scary here with some of these pinched landing areas and the nasty ass rough. And if you have to hit it, 190, 200 in your second shot, and these greens are firm, like they say we're going to end up with, who's going to be able to hold those greens? And Answer was a guy when I dug down into it, and he seemed to meet that criteria as well with some of the longer irons. So 35-1, I think he should, like, him and Corey Connors should be in the same range to me, in my brain. So I'm way more happy to take a bigger price on a guy here.
I have bet Connors. I have bet Answer. And I guess to my previous point, I'm betting Fitzpatrick. You could argue that's me trying to call my shot as well. And I think a lot of my lead up talking points were, I think I'm trying to call my shot. Answer, I think it makes perfect sense. For starters, if you're worried about the health, let me just promise you this. If Abraham Answer was injured, he would not be going back-to-back events this close to the major. So, like, right there, I'm convinced he's healthy. We saw some really good, it was around the green stats, right? That just totally crushed him last week. I think he lost 7 strokes.
Yeah.
I'm willing to step in front of Answer, assuming he's healthy. It's all kind of slowly trending in the right direction. If we had a couple more weeks of Answer trending before this event, he probably would be down in the Fitzpatrick Connors area. So I did bet Answer. Andy sort of made all those good points. And it was almost at the end of my show with Pat yesterday where we just went back to talk about Answer. And I had this epiphany where I really do like Paul Casey. I haven't bet Paul Casey. I don't think I'm going to bet Paul Casey. But it was, how can I have to just try? I pivoted from Casey to Answer of the mindset, like, I just trust Answer so much more than Casey in this moment. Having played last week, wouldn't play the back-to-back weeks. The same sort of game type that I'm betting on Fitzpatrick, that I'm mimicking from Molinari. Abe Answer fits right into there. Also, I mean, I love betting in the 30s. So it's just like where I get a good enough player that I believe in, and I feel like I'm bringing some win equity with it too. Give me Abe.
Well, the injury was brought up a lot last week by people, and they said, well, yeah, he might still be injured, but it's like a Mexican event, and he has to represent, his home.
And that was,
here.
I would probably said that too. Like,
it made sense. Like, hey, he could still be banged up, but he ended up playing this because it's like a home, a home tournament where he feels like he needs to represent. But the fact that he's, like you said, doing them back to back, like if he was still banged up and he struggled last week, he's just not going to Maryland. Like, why would you get on a plane and go to Maryland if your back hurts so bad that you didn't think you're worried about the major that's looming in a couple weeks? So full agree. Great point by Mr. Feinberg as usual. Like I wasn't worried about the injury based on the kind of the same thing, but you put a finer point on it, and yeah, Abe Answer probably maybe best shape of his life right now. I'm gonna go the full other direction.
That's a good point, though. We're talking about, especially looking at it in comparison to Casey, because Casey, at least answered the question last week, unintentional pun, but by going out and performing. And then now, to your point, Geoff, is going and continuing on where we have Casey with similar concerns. Again, it's part of it is like what this kind of course fit is going to be based off of Casey's game and where you're seeing some 50s out there. I get why you would have some Casey love.
If you wanted to just like, I'm going to ceiling this bitch and I'm playing Casey, I've seen it enhanced to 50 on Casey. If I'm just like, I'm going to play Casey and Webb and just play guys that are real like course fits. They do, they are winners. They are higher end talents. And from the outright betting, maybe you don't want Casey in DFS. You don't want Webb in DFS because the floor feels low at the moment. Outright markets. It's easy to say, but it's a repeat comment. Like, I'm going to bet guys that missed the cut. I'm going to bet guys that I don't do a placing on that finished third place. I didn't do a placing on Riley. I didn't do a placing on Champ or Finau. Like, it's still a zero, little less of a sweat. But so I could totally see how someone has talked themselves into Paul Casey. And you look at this course, like, just gives off Valspar vibes. It gives off Paul Casey vibes. Final score, like, guy doesn't have to make the birdies. You don't have to be so frustrated when he misses the birdie look on the harder holes because him making par on those holes are going to gain him strokes on the field. I totally get it. And I see a 50 enhanced. The events that I have, the field strengths that I have bet Paul Casey at a number less than 50 in my life, let alone a place like this where it just feels like a perfect Casey demanding layout. Even after this rant, I don't think I'm going to be there. And, it would be nice if, it would be nice if, maybe people in the golf media could get us some answers this week, but you also couldn't even trust Casey because he put on the Insta 2 days before the Masters. He's fine and ready to go.
Yeah. No, I have a final score prediction for Paul Casey. It's like a 12. Like 12 shots, and then he withdraws because he's hurt. Like he's one again. He's one like, hey, they're offering an enhanced price. It's because they're worried he's going to withdraw, and they're gonna worst case he withdraws after he takes a shot, obviously. But I don't hate Paul Casey, and I don't want to do the like I'm going to live bet him for more value, but. If I'm betting Paul Casey, I legitimately might live bet him just to make sure he starts the damn tournament and plays a few holes.
Yeah. Show me Paul Casey in the afternoon wave on Thursday.
Yeah.
Tee off, play a couple, be back. But if I see that he's healthy and no one's run away with it, that could be something. I don't know.
That's why I hate golf sometimes because we don't have good like injury reports. You just never know. People are just it's worse than the NBA where it's just like, we found this Japanese tweet that Matsuyama isn't playing, and I wish you guys had seen this because your DFS lineups are 20% dead now. But yeah, I don't know. It's been a while for Casey. I think probably he's fine, and that's a big number, Geoff. If you get 50 on him, it is a good course fit. I think,
but it's like probably is fine. Like, are we here to just go through the motions and prove to myself I'm fine so I can have a summer, or am I here like ready to go? And that's where it's like, Abe, I'm just that much more. It's the margins and picking and not picking a guy to win. I just felt more comfortable with Abe. Now, granted, as we sit here today, Casey's odds have been enhanced significantly more than Abe's. Clearly, because I don't think the books are taking much Casey action at all. But I don't know. Like, I'm curious what his ownership is gonna be. There's a real opportunity. It's just embarrassing. I think of the events I've bet him at, and it makes me like real tempted.
No, the DFS is probably the best way to go about it because I agree. Or the live bet. So, I was looking. We don't have tee times yet, but I agree. Like, there are always opportunities to target in on guys, and if you get the right tee time, holding off until making that bet Thursday afternoon, you can gain points by them doing nothing. Just if especially if someone at the top of the board goes out and sets a nice low score or is trending to set a low score early in the morning on Thursday.
No one's going to move these numbers outside of Rory.
Yeah.
Like
agreed.
Corey might do, like, I'm just saying, like,
It's true.
Anyone not Rory would have to do something real significant to move someone's number.
A pretty loaded tier, and a lot of guys that I feel like are getting buzz in this 40 to 50 range. Cam Young and Max Homa basically have the same number across the board. Homa, I took Homa at 50 on FanDuel. That was 28 on DraftKings. Homa, again, ball striking has been really great for a while now. It is actually fairly accurate off the tee as well. So again, distance advantage. We know we've seen him win at places, like the Riv, where distance matters a lot. He could still get away with finding fairways here and compete. Sergio is a guy that we want when we're thinking about ball striking. That really hasn't been the Sergio over the last couple of months. Siwoo is another guy that's very interesting to me. Actually finds a decent amount of fairways. Didn't bet him. The only guy that got my outright money in this range is Homa. But is there anyone, Geoff, you mentioned Webb. Again, this feels like a prototypical Webb course, maybe, 9 months ago, 12 months ago. We really haven't seen it from Webb. Is there anyone else in here that is catching your attention?
Well, they've been sent into the range on a rocket ship called a bet boost, but Gary Woodland has been boosted to 50 to 1 at a very popular site. And that's just simply too much for me to resist. So Gary Woodland on this bet boost offering to 50 to 1. What a consistent season, just trending so nicely. A lot of beautiful opportunities. Clearly the API being probably the only true opportunity to have bagged something, but the iron play, just, I don't know. I think he's playing with a ton of confidence. I spoke to someone who's friends with his coach. I just believe he's going to have a great summer. Starts here for me. Gary at 50. Of those other names you mentioned, it would be Cam Young, who I would be most potentially interested in. Siwoo's always got some level of my attention, but sort of how I see myself in this 25 to 50 to 1 range. And I'm sort of cut off now until we sort of get close to those triple digits.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, this is not a Pete Dye track, but it seems to be trending to play like a Pete Dye track where you really need to set yourself up accurately off the tee. Is going to lean a lot on second shots. So Siwoo's there. 50 on Gary is incredible. I'm looking at 25s and 30s mostly for Gary. So
see, and these bet boosts, like, I question their I feel like they do two specific kinds of bet boosts. One, bet boost a guy they're not getting a ton of action on. Let's maybe juice that up. Two, bet boost a guy that they just know is such a fish this week.
Yeah.
And based on a lot of people's cards, Gary seems like a very popular play. I'm sure he'll be very popular in bets, very popular in DFS. So I don't know. I sometimes want to respect the books and think they might know that they're just taking my money, but I'm going to take the chance, because if I miss this Gary at 50 on this field, this course, I would the peace of mind. So I'm just going to lose money. Okay.
Anyone else you got?
I'm not sure I've ever won one of those bet boosts. Maybe on soccer. So I was like, Dustin Johnson to win a major this year, and I'll put a few. The only one I ever win is the Bet Online one, where they put it like, "Hey, will the Super Bowl champions score a point in their season opener or more?" And they let you have like $25 on it. So I was just bet that twice at a couple places, and
you don't get any Croatian basketball boosts.
You can, none whatsoever. It said you can hold my $50 till the fall. I'll get it back, and it'll be a Hondy. Not a lot in here. Leishman piqued my interest a little. I don't like how the market's looking on him right now. He's a guy I'm going to be looking at in matchups for sure. So not really a Homa. There's some Homas at 45 that's a bit tempting. He's probably going to be more of a top 20 play for me. I'm just not sure he's a guy that wins this tournament. I have him to play well, but I don't know. Like I don't want to say he has like distractions, but I mean he's got a kid on the way right, and he spends all his time on Twitter. I don't think he wins golf tournaments. He tweets. Love the guy to death, but he's not someone I'm betting to win.
He's won golf tournaments. He won at Riviera.
I know.
He's won a Wells Fargo.
Yeah, he won a Wells Fargo.
Yes, I don't know if he's. That's fine. I don't picture him as someone who wins today. I don't know. There's something about him being like a Twitter personality rather than a golfer at this point. But no, he's playing well. He's a guy I like. If there was a 50 that popped up again, I'd have to think about it. Mostly 45 is what I'm seeing. Paul Casey can't do it. He's injured. Sergio is not someone I'm interested in a track like this at all. Siwoo's price got beat down. I'm anti-Cam Young this week. I'll actually be betting against him in some matchups if the prices are right.
Why? Just out of curiosity.
Just some of the approach stuff isn't great. And I guess, you look at a smaller sample size, he's been better lately, but his price is getting pushed up like to a spot where I don't think it's mostly just a price play. I think he's a fine golfer, but he's become a little bit overrated in the markets. So again, it'll depend on who he gets matched up with. Like there's always these guys. It's like, I make lists of people. It's like, I'm going to bet against this guy. I know he'll be in matchups. They're not going to leave people who are 40-1 out of matchups. And then usually it's like two guys I'm fading will be matched up with each other and I don't get a chance to. So we'll see what Bookmaker puts out here in a bit for full tournament matchups. But yeah, Cam Young, I mean, real good. Just overall, he's been fine lately, but some of the stuff that I think matters here is going to be a struggle. I'm not sure he can do it with the long irons consistently at a tough course like this. Sepp Straka, I know he's a little further, but I found a 66 on Sepp.
Bet it.
I did. He's my guy.
Yeah.
He's the Scotty of the Alps. He is on an ascension right now where I think he's gonna like win an event, or he did already, like another one. I think he's gonna win. It might not be the best tournament.
Are there any places can take Sepp Straka to make the Ryder Cup team next year?
Oh man,
I know. I bet like Sepp as well. I don't know. You need your irons, 150 to 175 yards. It doesn't seem like he's had any like since winning, a player of what we would have perceived his like overall class of golfer to be since winning, like there was no step back. If that makes any, you think a guy can set the schedule, could take a deep breath? Nope, not whatsoever. Seems to just still be playing some beautiful golf at what is being asked of the winner this week. To me, fits very much in line with Sepp. So yeah, Sepp Straka 66-1. Apparently FanDuel's got a 70, but I bet a 66.
Yeah, I'd have to drive too far where there's Bodogs on my computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, since like you said, he won in Honda, and then we have the two P Dye tracks where he a couple times out ago at Heritage T3 and then T9 at the Players. So that very much fits what we're.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like an aberration. This win wasn't like some one-off week where we just saw a guy play his ass off and win, because that happens. Like I shouldn't shit on Stuart Sink, but like what he did last year at Heritage, like man, this guy just got it. Like he has it this week, and he's not a guy who I expect to do this a lot, but like steps at an age where he can do it. He can do one of these where I'm gonna ascend to someone who is competing, and he's gonna be in that 30 to 40 range come summer in events with decent field. So I'd like to get ahead of him. We're buying low. It's like Geoff wanted to bet him to be on the Ryder Cup. I love that. I think for sure. I'd love to see him on that team.
It's just not typically the guy I bet, because he feels like a 2020 Matthew Fitzpatrick, where a lot of times when I'm looking at what it is statistically, it's like putting and around the green, and you'll get a marginal plus approach day, and sometimes same thing, maybe field average off the tee. He's been a little bit better on approach, but it's so statistically elevated by incredible putting performances and just dominance and magician stuff around the green, and that's harder for me. But again, I want to respect the fact that he's kind of continued to build off the win at Honda and has performed pretty well too. I get down on Brian Harmon, another guy that I like to bet that doesn't win on places like this. Just par 4 scoring. We're kind of eliminating the Eagles and big par 5s here, so Harmon can find some fairways. get some stuff done. I like that number 66. I got it at MGM. Let's get into some of the bombs, Geoff. Is there anything down here in the 70 to 100 range? Is there something that we need to know, to your point, around respecting the books with Troy Merritt? Troy Merritt is 35 to 1 on DraftKings.
That's one book.
What the what? Like, yeah, I mean, it is insane.
I mean, I don't understand. That's either like just a mistake, or at the go they take such an enormous bet and they decide we don't want any more Troy Merritt action, period. Like, we are at max Troy Merritt payout. We're now making him 35 to 1. You want to bet Troy Merritt? Go next door. Yeah, you could see that. Like, there are some stats that point to Troy Merritt being a very nice, sharp 80 plus 1 to 1 pick. I mean, we talk about a lot of guys and their consistencies and their consistency recently. It feels like that goddamn soul patch is coming up on my TV every freaking weekend.
Is there any other these bombs down here, Geoff? We get into, again,
DraftKings seem to have done it with the bombs. Now, I will say, in this sort of back part of the board, I mentioned I'm not really invested because I've made sort of 3 picks in that 25 to 40. I got my SEP pick, but sort of like last week, guys, I'm always just in favor of playing the higher ceiling unknown than like the veteran who I feel like I know what you are. And like that's last week, it was, your Davis Rileys, your Aaron Rye's, what have you. But even this week, I'm not betting them, but I would rather go to the wall with a Gim, a Rye, one of those players than say like the very hyped, it seems, Kevin Streelman. Like, I know what Kevin Streelman is. I feel like unknowns and some of these younger players who I could be interested in. But for the most part, at least in terms of best number available, I'm skipping this. But there's a few things north of 100 I could look at.
Wait, Aaron Rye, Sepp Straka in 4-ball against that's your Ryder Cup pairing, I think. Look at those two in a couple years. Aaron Rye I'd like over Gim. Gim, I just can't find. And I don't know how much this matters, because we had a laugh about this the other day in a different chat about all the stuff came out about Morikawa. Oh man, he went to the Scottish Open and he made like one comment, and 5 seconds later the entire Twitterverse is like, well, he can't play a links course. It's just not going to work. He can't do it. And he goes out and wins. So I don't love to do this sort of stuff, but I can't find a case for Gim played a course like this. Like, I just don't have a lot of data of him playing a super tough course. I'm gonna have to go back and look a little more. I just didn't see a lot of rounds. I'm gonna have to go look at some of his earlier, go into deep into his catalog, some of the deep cuts. But I like Aaron Rye a little more than Gim at a place like this. And I really didn't want to go into some of the deep guys here. Russell Knox, there's some 85s, maybe betters.
130.
130 on DraftKings.
Yeah,
but honestly,
maybe I could go drive and get that, but boy, I don't know if he wins. Like,
I don't know.
Russell Knox was like a real nice top 40 bet.
Just that putter is such a goddamn brick. Like, I'd rather just maybe invest in like Luke List at 130 to 1. Bo Hostler.
Luke List at 130 is so strange.
Let's take some bad putters to top 40 here, because it's all of a sudden we're back on bent. We're up north. Like, if you find these greens, the putting isn't going to be super challenging.
Cam Davis is a guy that checks that box a little bit. Been playing a little bit better. Good bent grass putter. Not typically the course I would.
Brandon Grace seems very like from a long shot, 100 to 1. I'm seeing some very well respected multiple places have his name showing up.
Tyler Duncan, there's a guy I won't. That's not.
Yes, so there's a bunch of those guys that I think are decent fits this week. I mentioned them at the top. Duncan was one of them that, that seemed to be not necessarily getting outright money, I don't think, from any of us, but probably from a finishing position standpoint. The Hayden Buckleys. We know the Brian Stewarts and Ryan Armours of the world. Geoff mentioned Streelman. Marty Laird. I don't know that Marty Laird are going. They're not. I don't know what the win equity is there. It's probably very, 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 very low. But if you're dabbling down the board in, top 20s, top 30s, top 40s, probably for some of these guys, that could probably pique my interest. But down the board, as far as, bombs to win, I don't think anyone's catching my money.
No, it'll be kind of light. I think I'll have 2 or 3 outrights, a bunch of top 40s. Like that was, I like that you guys said that because it kind of was the plan. Some of these team no putt guys, it's like, yeah, I'd love to bet Luke List and have him win the tournament and make me super rich. But like I could also just bet, day baseball and not waste that money on something and, put half of it on baseball, half of it on a top 40 price instead, because I like that happening a lot better compared to what you're getting for the odds. So I think I'm going to have a handful of team, like team good approach, shitty putter. And, hopefully some guys who also find fairways as well that are like 80 to 150 to 1. And I'm going to bet them top 40s because those are guys I think excel here. It's just, they're not going to play this tournament enough times for any of them to really win. And if one of them does, so be it. It's like the Svensson thing. When I bet Svensson top 40, loved it, couldn't stop talking about it. Then he goes out like top 5s. I'm like, oh, I could have got more aggressive on that. You can't go hindsight on it. You just take your winnings, be happy. You realize the process was cool. And I think that's what we're going to do with a lot of these guys. So I'm going to have a filthy top 40 card, I think.
A top 40, well, a guy that I'll be certainly investing in probably a handful of prop markets. I trust him as much as anybody to cash me a prop right now in this entire field, relatively speaking. Anirban Lahiri. The confidence, the consistency, seems like the mental peace that he has currently found at the moment. Just seems to be working from Mexico to Harbor Town to going back to where it started at the Players. I've been until he kicks me off the horse in his prop market. I'm going to stay on it.
A guy for me this week is David Lipsky.
Yes, good call.
So Aaron Rye's teammates at the Zurich. They finished T4 there. T6 last week in Mexico, a place where we're not thinking of him with his distance issues. T7 at Corrales. So basically, he missed the cut at Valero. 3 of the last 4 starts, he's been T7 or better. Approach play has been really tremendous. So if he can kind of continue to build on that, I mean, he gained like almost 10 strokes on approach in Mexico. So could be interesting. Again, you're way down the board here.
100? What is
100? Yeah, 100 on PointsBet, 100 on DraftKings.
And he's another guy who's like, if you go look at Bookmaker, he's 70. Like he's a guy who's taking money in a bigger liquidity book like that. So like I obviously, when I did some sorting, I have several different, like, I don't want to call them models, but I have my baseline stuff, and then I start looking at some course fit things. And I just did one where it's like, all right, show me guys who can find the fairway, not screw that up too badly, and then can hit long irons and do it well maybe on somewhere with firm greens. And Lipsky was like top 10 over a decent sample size. It's like, shit, I'm not betting this Lipsky character, am I? And again, he is another one who falls probably, even if the putter isn't horrible, he probably falls into that, this is a top 40 guy, because I think his game is probably good enough to put him in that in the weekend and find himself in that, at least in the mix for it. And you're going to get nice numbers on some of those.
Yeah, it's going to be how I approach the bottom of the board, and there's a bunch of those. So anyone that you gentlemen want to mention before we wrap it up? We missed on?
Neesmith, Laird, Lipsky, maybe CT Pan, Alex Smalley. God, not Doc Red. I can't bet Doc Redmond even top 40 right now. Just what's going on.
He's been playing better, hasn't he?
A little. Lucas Glover probably falls in there. Man, those are probably all top 40 bets if the prices are right.
Yeah, Hayden Buckley's in the mix for me for sure, based off his off the tee stuff. I mean, third for Doc. Been making more cuts as of late. Rough swing season, and trending a little bit better, but not great. Take a look at that.
Shopping Lipsky right now. That's not going to end well.
I'm looking at PointsBet, DraftKings, 365 score. As always, all have hundreds on Lipsky. 90 on FanDuel. So, all right, gentlemen. As always, we appreciate anyone hanging out with us. Again, this is available on YouTube, available in podcast form. DFS show coming in the afternoon. myself, John Daigle, Ron Kloss, PGA Splits 101. We'll be back Wednesday. Andy and Ron and a guest on our roundtable. So handling any of your last minute questions, DFS, betting stuff. Check all that out. Head over to betsportsgolf.com. Some free content over there as well, along with all of the other good stuff behind the paywall, which you want to take advantage of. Still 50% off. Under $100, Andy.
Get yourself in the Discord for like $2 a week and take advantage of. I mean, you saw what we did. Even if you just want to play the matchups with me and Ron,
killed it.
That was fun. That's fun.
9-1
workout. Because that's what keeps me afloat to bet all these outrights.
Yep.
It's the outrights are not cashing often, no matter how good you are at it. It's hard. It's so hard. So that's the kind of shit. It's like you with your positional bets. It's what keeps you afloat. It's what keeps you winning, keeps you in the positive. And Geoff, I mean, he just cashes checks everywhere.
No, listen, it's.
Well, I mean, not from golf betting.
It's those draft tips that can keep me.
When's the CFL draft? We need to get another draft here soon.
It doesn't quite work like. I think it already happened. Yeah.
Oh.
I got him thinking about the Grey Cup now. So we'll have Grey Cup future.
I'm pro CFL. I used to work for the Argos. I have some current ties to the people at the Alouettes. So I'm very CFL loyal, and I love pigskin. Like, I love watching football. So when there's an airborne pigskin, like on Canada Day until college football season starts, I'm going to watch it and I'm going to bet it. Although I haven't really gotten into the USFL yet.
I made a bet on that yesterday. I took the Jersey Generals to win it all. I have cashed a CFL future as we try to close the show and start talking about football. Good. I watched a whole Grey Cup once, and they brought Shania Twain out to.
That was the best.
They brought Shania Twain out to midfield on a dog sled,
and it was snowing. It was a snowstorm.
And it was snowing, and it was like, this is
how we do it, man. That's how we do it.
It was like tear to my eye. It was
the
beautiful.
Canadiana, like,
we stand on guard for thee.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I guess all you Corey Connors backers, you should only be concerned he's not like going to stay up at night to watch 3 overtime NHL playoff games, right?
Yeah, I realized yesterday I'm following way too many Canadians because there was a lot of Leafs talk on my timeline yesterday. I ended up betting Matthews over 4.5 shots because everyone was talking about him so much, and it cashed. So thank you to my friends up north.
I live in Toronto.
Pushing Toronto. Me one of the best cities in the world, by the way. I'm a huge Toronto fan. It's lovely.
I'm a Mississauga.
It's like Chicago, but cleaner. I mean, I enjoyed. I've done a couple weekends up there, for concerts and enjoyed myself quite a bit.
Yeah, hockey playoffs have started, so things are. That's why I probably couldn't get golf odds till afternoon yesterday in Canada. It was the first day of NHL playoffs. These books didn't know what to do with themselves.
Probably true.
Yeah, it's a big deal up there. I don't know if you guys heard. So my Wild are down 1-0. I'm not sure.
Same with my Bruins.
I'll get you guys out on this note. I don't know if you saw me with Pat yesterday, but I brought this up. Some unfortunate. Well, I was disappointed. And then we can get out of this. So we're probably into a decade now. It's probably been a decade. I used to work at TSN Radio, produced a radio show daily called Leafs Lunch. The full gamut, like every day, noon to 1, Leafs talk as Toronto can handle. Fully, we'd be at practices, locker room, game day if I wanted to, fully credentialed.
Skate around with Geoff.
Yeah, no, fully credentialed. So, the playoffs were starting. I thought it was a good idea. Maybe the Leafs would credential me. It's been a decade, but I thought I had the credential a decade ago. The playoffs were starting. Thought they'd give me a credential. They didn't. I couldn't believe it. Turned me down.
You should tweet about it.
Yeah, tweet on Twitter.
I'm going to leave this alone. I don't even want to get into this.
Oh, that's so good.
Geoff, you're killing me right now.
You brought it full circle, tied into what we were talking about, and hammered home. So good stuff as
looking
always.
Forward, and that reminds me, looking forward to the PGA in a couple weeks. So for Geoff, for Ryan, and me, check out betsportsgolf.com, and we'll see you next week.